Well, welcome everyone to another episode of More Than Able podcast. I'm Margie, and I'm here with one of the greatest moms I know. And that would be my boyfriend Parker's mom, Kelly. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thanks, Margie. Happy to be here.
I like to start off my episodes with a fun game of Would You Rather. Are you interested?
Sure.
Okay. Would you rather have a gift card to your favorite restaurant or your favorite store?
Restaurant. Because I can take my family and I like that. And we eat out. That's a fun, kind of a fun event.
Yeah, that's a great choice. For me, it would be tough. As you know, I like to go out to eat as well. But I also like to go shopping too. And if I had to choose one, I would choose my favorite restaurant, which, as you know, is Ciao Bella.
I love Ciao Bella.
Oh, so good. We've had some great times there.
Yes.
All right. Second, would you rather question?
Ooh.
Would you rather live on a peaceful tropical island or a big city?
Wow, that's a tough one. I like a lot of things that the big city offers, but I would say tropical island. I love to swim, and I would like the peacefulness of the green of the island and swimming in the ocean. I would say the island for sure. How about you?
Oh, that's wonderful. So I'm the opposite. I would choose a big city because there would be more to do. I mean, I feel like if I were on an island for a long time, I'd probably just get bored and lonely.
There is a difference too with our ages.
I'm older, true.
So I've lived in the big city for a long time, and now I want peace and quiet. You're still young and hip and going out.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. Now let's learn more about you.
Uh-oh.
So, when did you realize there was something special about Parker?
I would say when he was 2, we would go to Barnes & Noble and the Edina Library, and he was reading words off books that we didn't have at home. So I started thinking, okay, he's really smart. And then I didn't think much of it until he was about 4, and he was always really outgoing and social. And at 4, he became more withdrawn. So then between 5 and 6, I took him to the University of Minnesota Autism Spectrum Clinic to have him diagnosed. And we did 3 days of tests there. And we were able to go home in the evening, but there were breaks too during the day. But then we met on the 4th day, and they had a diagnosis and said he had Asperger's syndrome, some hydrocephalus, and ADHD. Wow. And I had never heard of Asperger's syndrome, but ADHD I had, and hydrocephalus I had. And then he did the pediatric neurosurgeon at the University of Minnesota, the head of it, had him come into the hospital for one night, and they tested the pressure on his brain. And it turned out to be normal pressure, so they didn't have to put a shunt in. Wow. And they said it would just drain on its own. And we really never looked back from that diagnosis. And it's just been ADHD and Asperger's syndrome, which we've had to deal with Parker, and Parker's had to deal with it. And now they don't really call it Asperger's syndrome anymore, even though the people that are in their 30s, still call it that because they were diagnosed with it at 5 or 6. So a lot of them are fighting the ASD diagnosis, but autism spectrum disorder or disability is what it's called now. But Parker and I still call it Asperger's syndrome because it was the label he was given at 5 years old.
Right. And as his girlfriend, he's been teaching me a lot about the different terminologies and everything. And so I even say Asperger's, even though I know there's like some controversy with that now too. So
I still say it too. So
what was it like juggling work and family when Parker and your other son, Jack, were growing up?
That was a little challenging. So I'm an attorney, and I just retired last year from law.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I'm keeping my license going so I can still practice if need be. But I was a stay-at-home mom and an attorney at the same time. So what I was doing when I had Parker was the insurance company I worked for. I was a corporate attorney. Mm-hmm. They set me up with a home office. Mm-hmm. So I would work when he napped. Mm-hmm. And then at night, I would do the majority of my work when he went to bed at night or weekends. And then Tom, my husband, was also an attorney. He would come home if I had to go to court or something like that. So we just juggled it and made it work, and it worked for us. And, you know, we never looked back. I've always worked from home. And when Parker and Jack started school at 5 and 6, it was way easier because they were gone 6 hours a day. So I would just work those 6 hours. And then when they came home at 3 or 3:30, I was mom. I'd go into mom mode. So it worked out well, I think. And ask them, I'm sure they'd say it worked out well too. Hopefully.
Wow. So cool. So how did yours and Tom's families react to Parker's diagnoses?
They didn't know a lot about it. There was not a lot about Asperger's syndrome or ADHD back then, not a lot of help. What I did was I read a lot of books on ADHD and also Asperger's syndrome. There were only a few books out there on that. I think it was a new label, new diagnosis. I believe it was a German doctor that came up with it, and his last name is Asperger's, maybe, but I can't remember. It's been so long. But I had a couple books on it, and then there were videotapes. I could check out a movie on it, and some tapes I could listen to, but that was it. So I would educate them, and they're not judgmental. They're very easygoing. You know them, you've met them. So they were really good with him. I think they were patient, and they were very supportive of Parker.
That's very insightful. Thank you for sharing. And I have met your family, and I have to say, I totally agree. They are so supportive of Parker, and they were so welcoming to me the first time I met them all. And so that's really awesome.
Yeah, they're a great family.
So how was navigating the school system as far as special education went when Parker was in like elementary school and middle school and high school?
In elementary school, there was a resource room, and if he ever needed a break, he could go in there. And I think he used it a little bit. And we were in the Edina school system, so it was absolutely wonderful. There was so much support there. And as you know, you were in the same school system, and it was absolutely great. It would have been scary to be anywhere else. And they had a good head of that department, and she worked with Parker, and she'd work with the teachers and get them educated on his needs. And the school was very welcoming and very, very good about it. And I even asked Parker about a week ago, we were talking about it, and I said, I'm sorry I didn't know a lot about ADHD and Asperger's syndrome back when you were diagnosed at 5, and we really didn't have a lot to go on. And, I hope that you got enough help that you needed along the way. And he told me, I got more help than most kids. his exact words were, I got more help with my autism than most kids got. And so that was really comforting to me to know that, because you do worry, it's hard growing up if you're on the spectrum and you're different than everyone else. No one knows why you're different. And, Parker wasn't really open about the diagnosis when he was really young, and then he was better as he went through high school.
Right.
People knew, so then it was easier for him.
Wonderful. How has Parker and Jack's relationship been since they were kids?
They were best friends when they were little, right through grade school, and they both did everything together, really close. And then they got into school and they both had their own friends that would come over. And sometimes they'd commingle, the friends would, because they're only 18 months apart. So they're not even 2 years apart, and they're very close. And they even lived together in college. They lived together for the last 2 years of their college years at the University of Minnesota. And one graduated in the morning and the other graduated in the afternoon on the same day.
Busy.
Yeah,
you were busy that day. You and Tom both were.
Yeah, we were, and the relatives came to it too. But I would have to say, I didn't know if that would work out, because Parker, as you know, is a morning person, and Jack, you probably know, is a night owl. But I was a little hesitant, but those two were not they're like, no, we'll work it out and it'll be fine. And I think when you're siblings, you know each other so well that you can make any, you know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you can make any situation work. And they wanted to live together, and it worked out. They both did have their own separate bathroom connected to their own separate bedroom, though. So that could be why. But
that's fantastic. I can remember, I think it was one of the first times that I had really seen Parker and Jack together. You would all come over to my parents' house, and Jack had gotten there before Parker, and Parker was parking his car, and Jack was standing far enough away where he wouldn't get hit, but close enough where he could kind of direct Parker as to exactly where to park. And I remember my mom and I talking about that, and we were like, that is so great that Jack was able to, like, without hesitation, just direct him in a way where it's like, I don't think Parker got frustrated and Jack didn't get frustrated. And
yeah, it's just natural, I think, for them. It was, Parker is the oldest and the big brother, but they're very protective of each other. Mm-hmm. And when Jack has issues, he'll go to Parker. If he's, they're very close.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
So what do you like to do as a family?
We had a family cabin growing up when the kids were young. Tom's parents would meet us there, and we'd do a lot of summer weekends. The kids kind of grew up there in the summer and the weekends. We'd take their friends and we'd golf there. There was a lake right there that the cabin overlooked, so we would swim all the time. And there was a big raft that the kids would like when their friends would come, there'd be like 10 kids on the raft tipping it. Mm-hmm. Until one day they did finally break it.
Oh, goodness.
We had to go get a new raft.
Oh, my.
There was golf courses nearby, so we'd golf. And then there were, the kids would play soccer because there was a big grassy area for them. So it was really fun. And there were other kids that lived nearby. If their friends wouldn't come, there were other kids in the cabins next to ours that were a little bit older, but Parker and Jack thought they were so cool, so they kind of followed them around. And the kids were so nice, they'd play with them. So it was kind of a great thing. And then as they aged, we got rid of the cabin when they were in college, I think, because nobody was really using it. Tom's parents had passed away, so we weren't meeting them there anymore. And the kids weren't going up there and we weren't using it. So we sold it. But we had always traveled with the kids when they were young. We've, traveled all over. And after college, that's kind of been our fun thing to do. We've gone to Europe quite a bit. We've gone to Florence and Venice and Athens and Santorini and Paris and London.
Oh my goodness.
And Rome and just, with the kids, they have jobs and they have a couple weeks vacation. So that's kind of our family vacation that we do every year. So that's a fun thing that now we're doing as they've aged. But when they were little, they would say their most favorite thing was that family cabin in Brainerd.
That's what wonderful memories that you created back then that you've been creating recently. And I love that. So what was it like when Parker went to college?
I was sad. He thought I was crazy.
As any mom would be.
He was 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
So he's like, why are you so sad? But it changes the family dynamics. It's not that he was not at home, even though I did miss him. It was everything changed because he was the oldest and he was now living on campus. He was in a dorm and we got used to it. So we would go down every Sunday and have lunch or dinner with him and catch up, see what was going on with him. And he joined the Pokemon Club on campus and the Economics Club. He majored in economics and statistics. And
that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, he got a Bachelor of Science in Economics and a minor in Statistics. And so he was in those clubs. The Economics Club, he had some friends in it. And then he also had a lot of his good friends are in the Pokemon Club. And he was the treasurer in that club. So as far as getting him registered, if you go to a bigger school like the University of Minnesota, they have a disability services office. And so he didn't really want to register with it because he didn't think he'd ever need extra time on a test or any assistance. By the time he got to college, he was very independent, just with homework and just navigating everything. But I said, no, you need to register just in case you ever want to take extra time on a test or just so they know you're registered if if anything comes up. And the person that registered him said, we send a letter to all the professors. Well, you look at the university, it's huge. They're probably getting 30 or 40 letters because there's a lot of people that go to that university with a disability. So I thought, well, they're not even going to know who he is. And it's, but it's good to register. And that's what I would tell all parents, register if they have a disability services office, because if the student ever needs to take a leave of absence or needs extra time on a test, some of the kids were going to the like the disability services office to take a test, or you'd go somewhere else off campus for finals that was quieter. You wouldn't have to sit in a classroom with all the students. That never bothered Parker, so he didn't really take advantage of that. But it's just good to register, and I'm glad he did.
Wonderful. And I agree. It's good to have that kind of in your back pocket.
Yes.
In case you need it. I mean, right. I went to Normandale for a semester, and I mean, I had someone with me. I took an American Sign Language class, and then I just didn't feel that it was for me, even though it's a great school. But then when I transferred to Vector, the South Education Center, and I was able to hone in more on my skills with help, then I felt prepared. Like, it was a 2-year program, and so
Nice.
Yeah, so it was great.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's good to take advantage of whatever services I have, just if you can,
So what do you like to do in your free time?
Well, I think you know what I like to do. I garden. So I garden. I started my own gardening business. So I garden for other people now that I'm retired. And I really enjoy it. I love it. So I also do my own gardens for fun. I like to run, which is where I met you and your mom. Well, you I knew from Highlands, I think, elementary school. But I met your mom at Bredesen Park. That's where I still run occasionally. And I walk a lot with Tom. And for fun, we travel a lot with our family. So not sure where we're going this year, but we're thinking Canada, probably.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I have not planned it yet, but we usually go in August. And
sneak peek?
I know.
So we had talked on Facebook Live about how autism is being celebrated on TV within the last few years, but for those who didn't see it, can you share your thoughts on it if you remember?
I do remember. I love the show Love on the Spectrum, and all my girlfriends were like, they know Parker. So they all called me the minute that show came out, you have to watch it. And I watched the first couple, and I'm so sad for the people that it's not working out for. So it was too hard for me. So then I stopped watching, and then I heard that it was the number one show, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it another shot. And everybody, people not on the spectrum made it the number one show. Everybody was watching it. People with disabilities, without disabilities, relatives, everybody was watching it. So then I did watch the whole series, and I loved it. And I think what it does is because it just took off and it became the number one show people were watching, I think what it's done is made people more, their misconceptions of what people are like on the spectrum have changed. Like they'll think, you can't do this because they're on the spectrum, or, they just think their perceptions of people on the spectrum were kind of skewed to what they grew up with. Maybe there was a kid in the class that acted out and they didn't understand why, or something like that. So I think what it's done is it's made the public just more aware of all these people that they're working with on a daily basis, that they run into on a daily basis, that they see at the coffee shop, at lunch, hiking, biking, wherever, that a lot of them have disabilities. A lot of them are on the spectrum, and they're learning how to talk to them better, how to, anticipate their needs and see that they're actually people. They see them beyond the disability. They see what their strengths are and that they have a lot to offer to society, maybe more so than what they knew before they started watching those shows. Like there's The Good Doctor. He probably had Asperger's. I'm not really sure. And they realize that not everyone's the same. Parker doesn't have the anxiety that a lot of Asperger's have. And Elon Musk was on Saturday Night Live. He opened up the monologue with, I have Asperger's syndrome, because he's quite a bit older than Parker. So he was probably diagnosed at the same time. So he still calls it that. And then there's other shows, The Big Bang Theory, Sesame Street. You probably know more. I think all of that, as they keep broadcasting this and people are watching these shows, they're seeing a different side to someone on the spectrum, and they're taking them more seriously. And I think it's helped the public accept them. Yeah,
definitely. And there was a reality show that I watched. This was probably a year or two ago. Meet the Peets, Holly Robinson Peete and former football player Rodney Peete. Their oldest son, RJ, is on the spectrum.
Yes.
And I loved watching that and just seeing how great RJ is doing and how much of as I like to call a mama warrior that Holly was, like
Right.
making sure that like people knew, okay, yes, autism spectrum disorder is a thing, but it doesn't define my son. My son is doing things that people told him he was never going to do.
Right.
And so I really thought that was cool.
I saw that show too. And there's a book came out, Autism Out Loud. I haven't read it yet, but one of the women who wrote it is from Minnesota. And that's
really?
been on Instagram and Facebook a lot. I follow her now. But I think all of that helps. And I was telling Parker, there's a young man called David that has a huge following that has Asperger's. And Parker always did well in school. But this David said, he's like, I was a teacher's worst nightmare, where Parker was not.
Oh,
but
no.
He just explains everything he went through and how well he's doing now. And he has a podcast and people follow him. And I look up, I follow him so I can know, what Parker's going through and different things about it. But they're all different. And that's one huge thing that I think all these shows help show is even if you have the same diagnosis, you might not be the same as, like, Parker isn't the same as David. And Elon Musk isn't the same as Parker. You know what I mean?
We're all different.
Right.
So what do you hope for Parker and Jack's future?
Well, I hope they find love, which Parker seems to have. I hope they have that as my biggest hope and dream for them, that they find someone to share their life with. And then for career, I hope they have a good career, work-life balance, which I believe they both do right now. Jack is working probably too much, 7 days a week, and he doesn't have a lot of time to date right now because he's a managing editor of a newspaper, but I think that'll change, and he's had relationships in the past. So, and Parker has always wanted a kind of more of a relaxed work-life balance, and I think he has that. And then they both volunteer a lot. Parker just volunteered on Sunday with for autism spectrum disorders. So he, I think giving back to the community by volunteering makes you feel like a part of the community. So Jack volunteers too. So I think that's important. And they both have faith and believe in God. So I think that's good too. And I just want them to be happy. I think Tom would say the same thing. We don't really care what they do with career or their choices. We just want them to be happy.
It's every parent's dream. So I want to end this with asking you what I ask all of my guests. What does the term more than able mean to you?
Oh, so many things, I guess. People are so capable of doing so much more than what the public thinks they can do. People on the spectrum, if I look at it in that aspect, they're sometimes pigeonholed. Well, you can't work here. Well, you can only, do this job or that job. And I think the public is starting to realize that they're more than able to do whatever job they want, whatever goals they set for themselves. If they want to go to college and high school was a struggle, a lot of the students get help and get there. And same with the job. If there's a certain job they want, they should be able to strive for it. So I think don't have misconceptions of people on the spectrum, because they're more than able to do anything I can do or anybody else that's not on the spectrum can do.
Well said, Kelly. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Kelly, for coming on the show. Tune in next time to hear who I'm talking to. And just remember, you are more than able.